And that's a great segue as well because anybody who's listened to this show knows I am not a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. Whenever it drifts into that direction. I've only had a few episodes that we've really talked about Star Wars, but yeah, my views on Kathleen Kennedy once again is that. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you have more information than I do in regards to it. She was more. I mean, I'll start. I'll start with George Lucas. I felt he felt so attacked by the fan base that he thought that Disney would be the place that would preserve his legacy, right? And I
Mm,
feel like Kathleen Kennedy was the person because she had worked with Spielberg and Lucas before, who kind of, I don't want to say manipulated, but kind of manipulated that state of mind to kind of push for that deal. And then she convinced him that she should be put in charge to protect his vision. And none of that vision was protected. Disney went and did whatever they could, and Kathleen Kennedy kind of put her spin on a lot of things, and I feel like it's her influence that has made the sequels as lackluster and mediocre as they have been in some regard.
all right. Well, I'll start with the last thing you said because you're absolutely correct on that, and that all comes from a lack of planning.
Yeah,
Um, and Kathleen can't be 100% blamed on that, but I still am very puzzled as to why an established game plan wasn't laid out. And the problem with it is because Kathleen Kennedy just didn't understand Star Wars at a time when it was crucial to have someone running the ship who understood Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy was someone who was very liked by George Lucas,
hmm
who she had a huge career with Spielberg. She and her husband Frank Marshall established their own production company, but she is just like a good administrator, right? But she's not a great filmmaker, and she's not a great Star Wars person.
right.
She knew nothing about Star Wars until she became part of the company. And still to this day, she defers all knowledge about Star Wars to underlings who were given opportunities to grow within the company because they just happen to know a lot about Star Wars. But they're not great filmmakers. They're not
Yeah,
filmmakers, a lot of them. But they got elevated to executive positions within Lucasfilm and were handed clueless filmmakers in as far as J.J. Abrams goes. J.J. Abrams, obviously a Star Wars fan and someone who understands the nature of filmmaking, but he's not like a Star Wars expert. So he would
right.
have to go to executives within Lucasfilm for certain tidbits of knowledge. When it came to Rian Johnson, I think Rian Johnson was completely just thrown to the dogs. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. I still think Rian Johnson is 1000% clueless about Star Wars and absolutely the wrong person to have made a Star Wars film. And it was Kathleen Kennedy bringing in these young flavor of the day filmmakers to work on projects. Gareth Edwards with Rogue One. And Gareth,
Mhm.
I think, did a really good job. But Gareth didn't. They told him, Gareth, go make a Star Wars war movie like Band of Brothers. And so Gareth came back with a war movie like Band of Brothers. And they're like, yeah, this is great. Where's the Star Wars? And it was just too gritty, too bloody, too harsh. And
It's a
so that,
war movie.
yeah, well, they weren't clear with him. And and again, I think the company on a whole was distracted by relaunching the Star Wars franchise with The Force Awakens. So they didn't know what Gareth was doing, and so he didn't have the leadership. He didn't have people working with him that he really needed to have working with him. So they brought in Tony Gilroy. They were totally clueless about what to do. They brought in Tony Gilroy, and I think they gave some guys at ILM a little bit more of control of that film to get it to where it was able to be released, and people loved it. I loved Rogue One. I
Yeah.
still can't believe that they pulled that one off, but they did. And then, of course, then Solo went completely off the rails. The Boba Fett film was never made. They brought in Josh Trank, fired him. She brought in Colin Trevorrow, fired him from episode 9. So it just seems like this whole idea of taking anything and throwing it at the wall and then passing it off to the next flavor of the month filmmaker to take over was a huge mistake, a massive misunderstanding of how to make Star Wars. And as a result, the box office plummeted for Solo, a film nobody wanted to see, nobody gave a crap about.
That was the one Star Wars movie that came out that I did not go see in theaters. I just waited for it because, like there's nothing about that movie that could excite me. And yeah, I mean, it had some cool nods, like I don't know, spoiler alert, the little Darth Maul cameo at the end. Like, I love seeing it connected to Clone Wars. Like that was awesome to see that little connection be made. But outside of that, like it was just an uninspired movie. Like it just felt like it was too formulaic. Like it didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it didn't really rivet you.
it's the one Star Wars film that doesn't promote discussions about like really big, deep topics.
Yeah.
It's very surface value. Solo. There's not much underneath the surface. It's what you see is what you get. I think the timing on it was terrible for a couple of reasons. You just killed off Harrison Ford as Han Solo a couple years prior in The Force Awakens. Um, Alden was fine, but he wasn't Harrison Ford. That's his biggest crime. And and I think it's fair to critique that. I think that's very fair to critique that. Also, the inclusion of Darth Maul, a character who was just killed off the year prior. And oh, spoiler alert, because you haven't seen Star Wars Rebels. Too bad. Yeah, so
Oh no, Darth Maul probably had it coming. I hope he got chopped in half again.
yeah, I'll leave it to you to watch it. It was anticlimactic. Let me just say.
Oh
To
no.
me, it was. Some people love it, but I don't want to get into it.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, I'll watch it and we'll come back for a later discussion.
that's fine. And so yeah, I was like, what's Darth Maul doing here? What the hell? And so I felt like he was just kind of squeezed in.
Yeah.
And the thing that really bugs me about Solo is it just doesn't look like a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's drab. You can't make out all the details. Like when I see a Star Wars film, especially in the prequel era, my eyes are darting all over the frame. I'm looking everywhere in the screen. What's that down in the corner? Oh my God, look back there. It's a dewback, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have no sense of that kind of rich detail in Solo because it looks muddy. It just looks like somebody barfed all over the final print of the film. And I've been corrected on this many times. Well, the cinematographer was trying to create ambient lighting with lighting devices on the set itself as opposed to using spotlights and things like that. I said, well, maybe he should go back to film school because that's how I shoot iPhone videos, okay? I didn't have to go to film school to learn how to turn on a lamp. Are you telling me the guy just turned on a lamp? That's not good. And the film suffers because of it. It's dark, it's drab, it's depressing. It's depressing. Star Wars is supposed to pop at you with color and
Yeah.
detail everywhere all over the screen. I feel that way about certain scenes in The Last Jedi too, where it just kind of looks like there's just a dark like filter overall, like a muddy filter. And that to me is not Star Wars. Now, other parts of The Last Jedi look spectacular. I mean, there are parts in that film that look really great.
That
I love
that
the stuff on
throne
the
room,
island.
yeah,
What's that?
that throne room fight looked phenomenal.
It's
That was
so
probably
cool.
that was probably my
Yeah,
favorite part of the movie.
yeah, I like that. I like that. And the showdown with Luke on Crate and all of that. But people get their wind taken out of their sails because Luke is force projecting himself into that battle. I personally have no problem with it because as a Dark Horse Comics fan yourself, you know that
Yeah,
Luke was force projecting themselves into battle with AT-ATs way back in the early 90s in Dark Empire.
yeah.
So, do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I personally had no problem with the idea of force projection being used, but I don't think it was the best avenue for his final stand because I don't know, like, and I talked about this on another episode. I feel like a lot of the Last Jedi could have been could have been fixed with two things. One, you already knew Carrie Fisher was going to pass before the film was released.
Mhm.
They should have recut the film and edited her in so that she had the final showdown with flying the ships doing the light speed into the
Ah, yeah,
oncoming because it would have given her well, one, it would have probably made up for the whole Mary Poppins thing earlier, but
yeah.
two, it would have you knew she wasn't going to be able to be fit into the next film if you would have had her go out like
Mhm.
a boss and then had Luke as the carryover character. It would have then given him his redemption arc that he really needed, and at least would have allowed Ray to have some training so it corrects a lot of the issues people had with her character. Because I get the Mary Sue references. I mean, she hasn't really trained or did that. And I mean, it that wouldn't matter if her character had a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Well, she was Palpatine, so she
Yeah,
was naturally strong in the Force.
right, right. And
Um,
I don't know. I just feel like that would have been a better way to go than the whole Palpatine angle because I don't know. I was hoping that they weren't just going to reenact the Return of the Jedi with the Rise of Skywalker. I was hoping you were going to have, just her. I was hoping you were just going to have Kylo become the badass that you feel like he could have been this whole time, but he just never got there.
mm, yeah, yeah. It's the whole they shoulda, coulda. I
Yeah,
woulda, the way I would have done it.
yeah, yeah,
Again, I try to just wrap my head around the Star Wars that is, and not the Star Wars that isn't, because it's just easier that way. I find it very frustrating to rewrite films, and I think that the benefit of having a franchise like Star Wars is just knowing that there's more coming.
yeah,
There's more Star Wars on the way, and I think we need to kind of train ourselves to let it go if there is an element of Star Wars that doesn't appeal to us individually. I mean, at this point, it's been around for 40, almost 45 years, 44 years, and it's just going to be natural that we're not going to like everything that they
right.
throw at us. How vocal can we be? Well, I do say it's important to talk about the things you like and you dislike. It's also sort of hard to just keep hitting, what's that say, beating a dead horse.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
Well,
saying you're beating a dead horse either. I really enjoy hearing your take on the things they could have done differently. And I don't disagree with you. I think they had the opportunity to fix episode 8 and have Carrie, find an on-screen death that would be beneficial. But Ryan Johnson, very close-minded, very selfish filmmaker.
yeah,
He doesn't want to listen to reason. He doesn't want to accommodate anything other than his own vision. And if you ask him about it, he'll say, well, it was what's best for the story. There was no other way to make it. Well, no, there's a million other ways to make it happen. I hear fans talk about it all the time. Maybe if you open your mind a little to that kind of thing, then you would know, Ryan, but you didn't.
yeah.
I know Ryan's watching this show right now, so I won't hesitate to tell him what I think he did wrong. But it was just the whole approach was wrong, and
Yeah, and I mean,
you
like
know,
his approach works well in certain genres. Like Knives Out was a phenomenal film. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, as like a classic who done it, you don't really get those kind of movies anymore. And I
right?
really really enjoyed Knives Out. But I mean, I enjoyed what was that? What was the one he did with Bruce Willis? Looper. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
I like that one too. And
I
again,
enjoyed
you
that one
see
as well.
elements. There are elements in that film which he repeats in the Last Jedi.
Yeah,
The whole the whole concept of Luke destroying Kylo. before he rises to evil.
Right,
Luke
right.
had a premonition. Luke saw a vision. Luke looked deep into Kylo's soul and saw a future of darkness and despair at his hands. And so Luke was compelled, by the Force to go exterminate the threat. And that's the dark side of the Force at work. And a very important thing to note about the Skywalkers is that I think something that's essential about Anakin and Luke is their temptation, their strength in the Force, in the light side of the Force is undeniable, but also their temptation by the dark side is something that is a constant struggle with the
Right.
Skywalkers. They have to hold the dark side at bay at all times. Um, so I think that's the Force compelling Luke to go and kill his nephew in his sleep. That's the dark side of the Force compelling. But again, it goes back to that story in Looper where they're hunting that child who lives on the farm, who the child grows into be a terrible sort of terrorist or something, just an awful. Maybe he goes in office. I can't remember the exact details of what the kid grows into. Let's just say he's president,
Right.
and he was like a really evil guy. And so they had an opportunity via time travel to go back in time and kill him before. I mean, the Terminator is a similar
Yeah. Well,
premise.
that and Dead Zone with Christopher Walken, where he
Yeah,
had the psychic, flash that the guy running for president ends up, detonating the nuke and causing World War III.
yeah.
So that premise has been done and it's been done well, but I mean, I don't know. I just still feel that was it was too subversive for Luke's character because at his core value, he is the eternal optimist. He's the guy who would never kill Vader.